Okay, hello everyone again, and welcome to today's class. Hi, Laura. My name is Chris, and I'm proud to be your host today. Today we're going to be looking at TransactionDesk in Phase 3, Session 1, which is for advanced users, or really that's the idea. We're going to have a little bit of process and workflow building today where we're going to look at some of these advanced features, kind of like tips and tricks, if you will, the cherry on top of some of the standardized functions that you guys do already. So with that said, I do really want to cover these GoToWebinar options kind of in depth, just for a brief moment here to give you guys an idea of how to mostly engage with me. And if you guys happen to want to expand or collapse the panel, this is the area where you get to do that. Show a hide pane. You want to simply click on the orange arrow icon, and that simply collapses the panel so you can see more of the screen. To the right of that is your audio settings. You have the ability to change and listen into today's class and webinar via two different ways. The first is by your standardized computer audio, which is like mic and speakers. And the other one is going to be dialing in via phone call. You just simply enter a code and then they'll give you access to be able to listen to today's class. Right below that is volume controls. I don't think I need to go into how volume controls work. And lastly, but certainly not least, as I mentioned in the very beginning, is this question box. I'm a huge proponent of engagement, so please, if you guys have questions, just ask, okay? More than likely, someone else has the same question. So it's just one of those things I'm a huge proponent. If you guys get stuck, if I'm going too fast, etc., just let me know and we'll slow it down or we'll be able to address the question. Now, with that said, let's understand the topics of what we're going to be discussing today. And we have quite a few. And they're all very very much process oriented, like I said, and they're just kind of the cherry on top with some of the already standardized processes that you do. Like for example, the first one is adjusting program settings. I'll do the best I can to make it as exciting as possible. Program settings, I know, is not always the most exciting, but it is a core component because it really, at the end of the day, what you're doing with program settings, and there's a lot here. Customization is going to be the name of the game with today's webinar, okay? So with that said, you have an immense amount of freedom to be able to customize your own TransactionDesk account, tailoring it to what you want to see, what actions you use most. You have the ability to make changes with transaction roles and parties and all kinds of different abilities that you have access to, and all lives right within your program settings, okay? We're not gonna cover each and every one of the possibilities because there's a lot, but we're gonna cover some of the core ones I want you guys to kind of take away from today's class and kind of play around with it. Okay. The next one is definitely a little bit more subtle of an understanding, which is notifications, right? You want to know where and how you receive notifications for the actions that you're going to be doing within the class. Or I'm sorry, in your TransactionDesk account, right? I'm going to show you in the class where you can identify some of these notifications. Next one is setting up linked devices. Okay, so linked devices, there's two different strong possibilities of being able to use some linked devices. The first is mobile application, and the second is going to be linking up maybe a Broker Wolf, which is our back-end solution for once everything gets finalized in terms of transaction-wise, right? Then everything goes to closing kind of steps. Then I'm going to show you how you're able to pull in contacts from your TransactionDesk account from Google or Gmail, right? This is a pretty cool ability that you have access to. It creates a nice bridge, right, between your Gmail account, if you have a lot of contacts living there that you want to pull into your TransactionDesk account, either in the transaction itself or already just you have the contacts in there and they just kind of live and you can pull them in anytime you want. The next big subject that we're going to be talking about is importing documents from a third party. Okay, so you're starting to notice the theme, right? Linking up other outside third-party devices and pulling in contact from third-party applications, then importing documents from third parties, right? You have the ability to add on some of these already strong capabilities that you guys do, editing forms, pulling in forms from your libraries and these kinds of things. These are how to work with things that are also common, but maybe not as common as what you're normally doing. Now, pulling and sorting moving documents is really kind of akin to importing documents. And really what it is where you go to pull in your documents and where to go to grab the documents once they're inside of your TransactionDesk platform. That's really what this note is saying. And to round out that whole three-party system here where we have pulling in from third parties and pulling in, sorting them once they're inside the platform, then we have something that's called using DocBox. This is really the kind of the mother of the other three things that we're going to be talking about, where you're able to, it's kind of like the home area, home base, right? Where you're able to see where you pull in the documents and forms and whatnot, and then usability with them. Pull them into a transaction from DocBox area if you want, or just have a little folder for yourself to always go there to obtain these external documents. Now, the last two we have is understanding email upload and reviewing fax cover sheet. These two are really delivery methods, okay, of how to get some of these external documents that I've been talking about into the platform. Okay, so there's many different pathways to peace, so to speak, right? And one of them is by email upload, and the other is by using fax upload. Okay, for those of you who still use faxes, trust me, that's okay, because we have a full integration with faxes to allow for that usability, right? I'm hoping at some point the fax individuals that are still using faxes hopefully get moved over to email upload, because it's going to be a little bit easier. You're not having to do as much manual work with email uploads versus faxing. Okay, but just know that both pathways are there, and you're going to see and how to work with each one of those pathways when we dive into it. So with that said, let's actually go into our TransactionDesk account and see exactly what's going on, right? So what I'm going to do is pull over my account for you guys to see, and then what we'll do is we will dive into the training. Okay, so what I'm going to do is pull this over here. Now, so what you guys should be seeing now on the screen is my TransactionDesk or Instinet account. When you first log in, you land here, which is called the agent dashboard, as you guys all probably know already. In addition to that, you guys also may or may not know the ability to customize this page. Now, if you guys do know, I don't know if you guys know the true level and degree of customization that you have here. So let's start with what this page is for those who may or may not know. The agent dashboard is kind of like the generalized hub for all the major events that you can be doing within your TransactionDesk account wide. So as a whole, right? So you're always looking at everything from top down. So remember that mentality. Everything is a theme. Okay, so you're always looking at everything from top down, from this page, from every other one of the pages that you're going to be seeing. Now, this one is the one that's unique to the other ones, because you are looking at everything, but even a higher level, right, than the other ones. They're very specific to what they're targeting. So for example, your agent dashboard here, you get to look at everything below here, okay? But if you look at TransactionDesk tab, what are you looking at? Just your transactions, but it has that same theme, top down. You're looking at everything underneath the umbrella subject of TransactionDesk. However, the agent dashboard is the one that's unique, whereas the top tier, the ultimate top tier. So you're looking at everything from utmost top all the way down. So with that same respect, we have an ability to customize this page. So we have an ability to want to look at what we are desired to look at. What are the most important pieces in your workflows? Are you an admin? Are you a transaction coordinator? Are you an agent, right? What are the, each one of those three different roles, you're gonna have a different interest of what you want to be seeing inside of your TransactionDesk account. So that lends itself to this customization that I've been talking about, which is incredibly powerful. You know, freedom of choice, right? There's nothing more powerful than something of that nature. So it's really, really cool that you have the ability to be able to kind of come in here, drag and drop, remove, edit, add, whatever you want your view to be, okay? I welcome you guys to kind of play around with this, and that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss with this particular page. If you don't know what these widgets are, I do want to just cover those really quickly. Like we have blue ones and then green ones. The gray are what's already listed down here in the bottom. Let me just collapse this real quick so it's a little bit easier to see. The blue ones, when I say they're action widgets, what I'm truly meaning is that it is going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. All right, like say take creating transactions, for example. What do you think is going to happen when you hit the create transaction button? Not a whole lot of thought into that, right? You're going to be creating a transaction. You're going to go from A to B in that same structured order. However, the green ones, on the other hand, are also actionable, meaning you can click on it, but it's more detail and list oriented. So it's descriptive. Right, it's going to tell you in the list of all the transactions you have. Yeah, you can click on it, but it's really the purpose is to give you a list and overview of everything that's going on within that one singular category, not just an action item, right? You do this and 1 + 1 = 2. There's no other variation between that, okay? So those are the difference between the widgets. Once you're done locking and saving and all your changes, all you want to do is simply hit the lock button to re-engage the platform here that you see it, that it's locked, and now you can work with these particular items. Okay, So with that said, the very first thing we need to understand and discuss outside of this customization, but works along the same axis, is program settings. Okay, so let's go to the setup here, which is this tab down here. So we open and expand this navigation bar icon up in the top left, and we can see that it does expand. And what we're looking at is this setup symbol down here in the bottom left-hand corner. When we click on setup, you see several different options you have access to, right? Preferences, program settings, which is where we're going to be diving into in a few minutes. But we're also going to be living on this page for other areas of interest as well. Like say, here's linked applications. Some of the other levels of customization is type management or creating checklists or templates, right? These are all functions that help you do better at what you're doing on a day-to-day basis already. So come in here and kind of start to play around. I'm going to show you some core components and core things, but for the rest of it, dive into it yourself, play around with it. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't already. So if you haven't, please do. So one we're going to be looking at is program settings here. When you click on program settings, and I promise I'm not going to cover each one, okay? There's a very stark theme when every time you're clicking on each one of these, you're going to see it right away, okay? So program settings, this area of your TransactionDesk account allows you to be able to customize a lot of what you're trying to do. So again, tailoring your account to your own ends and needs. So we click on the drop down here, and it says transaction settings, and it gives you a list of all the different items that you have an ability to customize or edit. The first one is the default view. How would you like to see the transactions, right? That's the big question it's asking you. If you click the drop down, what transactions would you like to see? Would you like to see all, mine, or shared, right? If you're looking at all, most likely you're going to be an individual agent account, ideally, so you're really only ever going to be looking at your own for the most part, but maybe you're a transaction coordinator, or maybe you're a broker admin and you want to look at either all or just yours or just the shared. You have the ability to kind of drill down further if you will wish, okay? In that same light, right, how would you like it to be organized in terms of your view? The first option was choosing what view you would like. The second one is organizing of that view. Would you like it to be last, modified, / descending, right? You see all the different options here? Play around with them. Choose whichever option makes most sense to you, okay? They're very simplistic in terms of what it's understanding, okay? Default status is the next one up, where it's allowed to be able to select status. If you click select status, what happens is that these transactions after creating get to be put into one of these statuses. These are all customizable, okay? So for example, if the word closed to you is a little bit ambiguous or very broad, right, and you want something more specific, go into your type management settings, one of the areas I'm going to talk about, and change the name, okay, if you would like. Similar kind of theme, if you're in a brokerage account, you have the ability to change whatever matches your language, your workflow set, okay? So please take advantage of this stuff. We have default display, which is next. And again, it's kind of how would you like it to be viewed, a list or a grid view? Some people are list people like myself. I'm a very list-oriented person, so most of my stuff is always going to be list-based views. Others like the pictures and be able to see, so it's easier to identify the transaction itself, right? Maybe you want to do a grid view. This last option and these two last options here, create cover sheet and then use wizard, I would always leave checked. Now the create cover sheet, maybe not necessary. I'm going to cover cover sheets in a minute when we discuss faxes, but a cover sheet is a mode of delivery for outside documents if you want it to be. So if this is the primary mode of getting documents in is using faxes and cover sheets, then maybe you want that to be selected and have it be a constant, right? Okay, so now once we're done and we have everything updated, all we have to do is simply click update, right? And here is a prime area of interest, which is a notification, okay? So these notifications are pretty quick and they're a little bit, if you hover like you see me, I'm hovering my mouse over this, which allows it to stick there. If I remove the mouse, it is gonna go away after a period of time. And normally it's, 10 seconds, maybe it stays up there. And you can have many notifications that come in at the same time. And there's different levels of colors. So you'll see green, you maybe see yellow, different variations of notifications, but that's the one area that you'll see a notification. Now, we just went over transaction settings. The next one is document settings. Okay, so this is where you're going to start to see a theme, and I hope you guys are starting to pick up on some of it. Okay, so transaction documents default view. How would you like to see your documents? What kind of view? drag and drop, or would you like them to be sorted? This is how you're able to bring in these documents, right? What is the mode of delivery? Then you have your view, your sorting. Do you want them name descending, date created descending, et cetera, right? Checklist settings, same two questions, right? Forms. Now the forms is one that's a little bit different, okay? Where you see the default view or sort, right? And this is the same concept. Now this is where things start to diverge in terms of the theme. Default font. Yes, you have the ability to change the font choice and the how you'd like to view it. In addition, you have the ability to change the color of the font as well as the size of the font, which is probably going to be the most applicable. Okay, it starts out at 9, if you can increase it to 10 and then 11 as well. And those are defaulted. If you want them to stay defaulted or if you wanted to change it to say 10, well then update it here, okay? One caveat that I'll say about changing the fonts, the colors, and the sizes, and mostly applicable to the color and the font. But when you're choosing these fonts and color choices, like cyan, for example, it's a bright color. Green, light gray is another good example, or yellow. These are phenomenal color choices, right? It's really cool to see how bright they are and that kind of thing. However, when you go to print them, please be mindful of the color when you're printing it. Okay, if it's yellow or cyan or light gray, may not be 100% legible. So with that said, it's cool to see it internally within the platform, and the reason they give you those options is so that it makes more sense for you as the person entering the data. But you may have to change it or something like that. So just pay attention to those things, okay? Now, fax settings. This is the other area of interest, particularly in program settings, only if you use faxes. If you do not use faxes, you can ignore this section. You have the ability to show hide your phone numbers and cover sheets if you want, meaning the relevant information on the cover sheet, the fax cover sheet that comes up, is going to be basically your company information that you would normally want in sending in an email. However, if it's something where you don't want to divulge that pieces of information, then simply click hide phone fax numbers from cover sheets if you don't want them to respond via phone call and you want them to respond via just the fax or some other mode of delivery. You can see here there's current and primary, or primary and secondary when it comes to the phone numbers that are being used. Now we have task settings, and again, the same kind of concept, right? Email settings. This is the first one that says send as a link. This one's a little bit different than the other ones because it allows you to be able to choose sending as a link or as an attachment. If you want an attachment, they're going to be PDFs. Okay, whatever you're sending via email, it comes across as a PDF versus a link that they would click on, like a hyperlink, a blue hyperlink, like the www dot and blah blah, say Google or Yahoo. That's what the link is. It's a URL that you input into your web browser. Next one is Authentisign settings. And you guys are starting to see pretty much a theme already, so I don't need to cover this one. We have Authentisign print driver setup and then print driver for DocBox setup. Identical in terms of instructional, like you see the steps. Over here on the right, you have only 2 steps, 1 and then 2. You simply follow the steps, okay? There's not a whole lot of explanation beyond that. Similarly with DocBox print driver setup. You follow the steps to set it up if you need to. These are all optional, okay? The last 2 that I want to really talk about, specifically broker file review, is a big one because if you are in a brokerage account, okay, you still have to set up broker file review. You have to turn it on, is really what I'm talking about. So if you want broker file review as a broker in a brokerage account, then you need to be able to turn it on. And you can see turn off my review functionality, activate me as a staff reviewer only, or activate me as a broker reviewer only. Okay, it goes upward in tiers. This is the top tier, then one lower than that, and the last one is not at all. Okay. Last one is markup settings. Same kind of concept. When you're marking up a document, right, through your font, when you're editing a document, or through Authentisign, when you're using the markup tools, this is the font that's going to be in. This is the font size, and this is the font itself. If you would like to change this, you can. Okay. Any questions on program settings? Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about today in today's class today is going to be regarding briefly like the notifications. I discussed that a little bit already, but we'll return to that. The next one is on our list is setting up link devices. So that also happens to fall underneath the setup. So we click on setup and we're brought here where we see linked applications. Okay. Now linked applications, you can see up in the upper right hand corner, there's an activation code and download on the App Store. So the first thing it's going to ask you is what you'd like to download. If you click on this, it's going to bring you to the Apple App Store if you have on a Mac. Okay, this is where you're able to link your mobile device. Okay, now BrokerWolf. For those of you who are wondering about BrokerWolf, okay, that is a back-end kind of ability to turn on that we do. Now, with that said, though, you probably want to know, okay, once it gets linked and once it gets actionable, meaning it's engaged, where will I see some of the capabilities and where will I see the transfer of flow of data, right? Because it does communicate between each other. Whenever you're doing linked devices, what are you really doing, right? You're building bridges, okay? You're building a bridge for one thing to communicate to another. So with BrokerWolf, the connection between the two is quite paramount, right? There's a lot of information that gets flown over to BrokerWolf and backwards as well, right? Some of these core components, these are transactional pieces of data. They're all transaction driven and all property driven, more specifically. Like what is the purchase price? What is the closing date, listing date? Some of these core components and strong actionable dates that basically the transaction swirls around already is what important pieces are going to be brought over to BrokerWolf already. Okay, so that's something that lends itself pretty nicely to be able to leverage some of this stuff to take advantage of it. Okay, so the next thing is going to be importing documents from third parties. Now, with that said, I do want to make one thing pretty clear. Okay, when we're talking about external documents, right, I add always the term external, all right, to the forefront of it, because there's a big distinction between external documents and internal forms, all right? So when I click on this icon in the upper left-hand corner, the hamburger icon, we have Internet Forms, and then we have DocBox. DocBox is where you go to manage and mitigate all your external documents, something you're grabbing from a third-party source and bringing into the platform, right? Your Internet Forms, these are your internal preloaded forms. These are your association forms, whether they're state or local forms. These can also be MLS forms, right? And finally, company forms. The idea behind these kinds of forms versus documents is in terms of usability, what you can do with each one, okay? So let's just say an addendum, for example. If I want to create a new form, if I do standalone form, I'm going to open up this form here. I can tie it to a transaction later, but really what I want to do is show you what the difference is between a form and a document. You see these fields here where you're able to enter data into, just like that? This is an internal form, okay? This is the core capability and difference between this form and an external document. Okay, I know there's synonyms and I know there's confusion swirling around it. So I wanted to highlight the difference between the two because in the real world, right, in a way, if you're just doing everything with paper, it's very difficult to tell really outside of where you grabbed it from to be able to determine if it's an external or internal, right? So with that said, this is the difference between internal and external forms and documents. The editable ones that are preloaded are your internal forms. What you can enter data into is internal. The external documents, you can go to your DocBox area and obtain and use. So for example, we have inbox, my folders, share documents, and transaction folder. Start with the inbox folder. This is the main hub for whenever you import data into your DocBox area. This is where everything lands. So how to do that, really how to get the documents in here, is by clicking the plus symbol up at the top right-hand corner. You click on add and you're brought 3 different options to choose from. Adding a new document, remember an external document, always add that identifier, descriptor, really, and then create a new Internet fax or fax back cover sheet, right? Well, the last two aren't exactly the most important to us right now because I'm going to discuss that when we dive into faxes. It's still usable with an external document, right? It's still the same thing. It's just where and how you're getting the documents into the platform, what delivery method. The first one is electronic. Okay, so you're going to grab a document from your hard drive. So once I click on the top option, you can see where it says drag and drop. files and click upload here. So what you're going to do is you open up your file reviewer, the manila folder that sits on any Windows computer in the bottom left-hand corner. If you have a Mac, it's in the bottom right-hand corner, right? It's that blue folder that you open it up and has all your documents in there, right? It opens up like a crescent moon, or at least one of the options you can do that with. That's your documents area. For Windows, again, computer, it's the file reviewer. I'll show you what it looks like. Kind of looks like this. Let me move this over here for you guys to see. So this is what it is, right? This right here. So you have your different documents from your file reviewer. It's that manila folder that sits in the bottom left-hand corner, as you can see down there. Okay, so all you would do from there is drag and drop the files to here, all right? Now, there are a couple other delivery methods right internally from here. The first one we have is upload from device and computer. Seems a bit odd that we just talked about that, right? Well, it's a different way of, instead of dragging and dropping, if you are more click oriented, where you click on something like the widgets, you click on something and it does something for you. That's what this button's going to do. It's going to automatically open that file explorer window for you, or you can open it yourself and then just drag and drop files to here. Okay, so I'll do one example of that. Let's do that. You can see now I've added Robert Byer 1-4 family residential contract in here. The other delivery options that we have here is this one right here, which is the cloud option, okay, the import from third party. If I click on that, you're given the 4 options of document cloud storage, okay? Document cloud storage, just so you guys know, is an external ability to be able to store documents into. So it's not localized on your computer because, right, we all have very specialized amount of storage we have on a computer, some more, some less. And especially for business, right? In case something happens to your computer, you want something to be able to preserve all your documents in case something happens to your personalized computer. So cloud storage is the answer to that. It's a modern ability to be able to store documents, if you may or may not know. And then you're able to bring in those documents from the cloud storage hub directly into your TransactionDesk account via Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, or Box. I have to imagine at least most of you have interacted at least some point in time with one of the 4. However, with that said, these 4 items, we have our own internal storage solution, which is called DocBox. Okay, so instead of using one of these 4, you can use TransactionDesk as well, which is called DocBox. Okay, same concept, and what I'm talking about here is exactly what you would do to get the documents into our own internal storage solution. Okay, so with that said, the next one we have here is called email upload. Okay, email upload is other avenue that's besides faxing. Okay, so this area, if you want to use external documents, that's a little bit easier. Okay, so you saw the upload of the documents, right? You can upload an item. Well, how many clicks? Imagine the clicks, right? If I go here to device or computer, if I want to upload it, I can either click the icon or I can drag and drop, right? Well, how many potential clicks do you think that is, right? I click on the file reviewer icon, I click on the document, I drag and drop it here, right? Just the same minimum of 3. Well, the email upload button eliminates 2 of those options, 2 of those clicks rather. This email address right here allows you to email these documents directly into this DocBox area. Okay, and then what you can do is that they don't get organized in any way, they just get inputted into the most recent, right? So then at that point, you'll have like say 5 documents that you input into your DocBox area. Well, now what do you do with it? Okay, well then you can kind of break them down and drill it down to whatever transaction you wish it to be in. But this email address is that identifying email address that allows to be able to import these documents into this DocBox area of your TransactionDesk account. So for example, if you're working with a pest control company or say a title company or whatever external service that you routinely receive documents from, you simply send them that email address, then they respond to your email with that email address as the header, and then they upload those documents into your TransactionDesk account themselves through this email upload, okay? So that's a clean, simple way of being able to get documents from an email and upload them right into your platform without you having to drag and drop or click more than you need to, okay? So this is a phenomenal way to skip a couple steps if you want. Otherwise, you can use, it's a little bit more of a manual process, so if you want a little bit more control-driven kind of concept, the drag and drop is really kind of the place you want to be. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to do is like, okay, so I have this document here. Now, what do I do with it? Well, I come over here to the right and I see menu. If I click on menu, I have preview, print, download, etc., right? What are the ones I'm really looking for and what are the ones I'm kind of really trying to find? Well, really what I want to look for is how do I get to put this into one of my transactions, right? How do I put this in, say, Park Place or 123 Main Street, whatever the transaction's called, right? Well, I click on home, my 4 folders again. And here's my folders. You can always create your own internalized folders where you can separate them out if you wish. Like I created some that are fax folders. If you ever want to just have everything faxes separated versus email upload, you can do that. Another, which is probably more common, is you have a folder that has everything finalized. Anything that's signed or finalized, you can put in here for storage, right? And then once you open that, it opens up the different kinds of contracts that you may have, documents really. Then we also have another option, which is called Shared Documents folder. The Shared Documents folder allows you to share documents between multiple people. This is something that's not exactly a broker exclusive, but you click on this and you have an ability to internet fax or fax back cover sheet where you get to share these documents with other individuals, or at least put it into this folder and then they can view it. The last one is probably my favorite one, which is transaction folder, okay? Because this is where you get to drill down so you can see Delvin Drive, Hillcrest, Bleecker, or here's Park Place, for example. Maybe this is the document I need to put into Park Place. Open up Park Place, click on the add button, add new document, add new folder, or create internet fax or fax back cover sheet, right? And then I can look at what's going on in the documents in this particular transaction as a whole. So again, you're kind of looking at everything from top down, but this is the most specialized view that you can have of all your external documents inside one transaction. Okay, pretty cool stuff. Now, the other mode of delivery of documents, external documents, is via faxes. Okay, so if we come over here in the bottom left-hand corner where there's an internet fax or fax-looking machine icon, we click on this area. And once we click on this area, it opens up internet fax area or tab. And we have recipients, recipient email, CC, BCC, et cetera, So it looks like we're kind of building an email, right? And it very much is, okay? What you're doing is you're creating what's called a fax back cover sheet, okay? Now what a fax back cover sheet is gonna look like and operates as, and we'll go through it in a minute. There's a question that came in. I'll get to that in 1 second. Just give me a second and I'll get to that. Now, what we're doing, and we can go through this. So let's just go with, okay, there's my email address. And say maybe I want to CC myself, or I can do another individual within my brokerage. I can send a copy to myself again if I want. I have information and then subject. Now subject, because we're building out an email, this sounds like exactly like what it is, okay? So this is important docs, let's just say, for example. Message, this is gonna include, say, buy-sell agreement, just hypotheticals here, okay? Buy-sell agreement, pool addendum, which is PA, and then it could be lead-based paint disclosure, right? Something like that. These are the documents that are included that are gonna be faxed that you can use. I will. Just give me 1 second, Greg. I'll return to that. Great question. His question is, he's hoping I can re-explain external documents and how to put it into a transaction. And I'll show you guys how to do that. So once you're done here, you click on create and download. What's going to happen is here's another color of a notification here, right? So they're all different colors depending on what the notification may be. So if I open up the internet fax cover sheet, you're going to see here, it's going to open up. The most important piece here is this barcode. Okay, this barcode is, and let me see if I can zoom in here for you guys, see if it makes it clearer. There we go. Okay, so this barcode that's running across the top, when we were talking about email upload, right, there's a very unique email address that was attached. Okay, this barcode is akin to that email address, meaning it's the same kind of concept. This barcode identifies what transaction or really the internet fax area that you can import these files into that gets delivered to your DocBox area. Okay, so whichever delivery method you use, whether it's email upload, drag and drop, or internet fax, really all it's doing is funneling everything into one folder, or the DocBox section of your account. Okay, one of the questions that came in was, how do I take those documents and then input them into the transaction? One of those ways was actually through the transaction area, where you can kind of drill down into your transactions and directly upload it into there through the DocBox section, but they still live in that DocBox storage. Okay, so there's a little bit of overlap in terms of visually conceptualizing what's working here and what's going on, but either pathway you choose, whichever delivery method you choose, they're always going to arrive into your DocBox area, and then you can separate those out once they're in. Okay, so speaking of that, so this is instant effects. So let's return really quickly to the DocBox area. Okay, so we click on DocBox, and remember we have our 4 folders. This is where everything's going to generalize be falling. Okay, if you do the email upload, it falls here. If you do the fax back cover sheet upload, it falls here. Okay, so the standard process when it falls into, it's going to fall here. The other folders allow for a clear distinction of separation of where you would like them to fall. Okay, would you like to create your own folders? This is where that signed and finalized docs would come in. Okay, so this would be a unique scenario if you're using, say, closing documents or whatever terminology you use. Okay, these are just overarching themes. The last item that is probably going to be the most common and is probably going to be more prevalent and really targets what your question is, Greg, is you click here and then say this Park Place transaction. I click here, opens up the section of my transaction, specifically Park Place, that I can see all of my documents. Okay. Now, if I would like to upload a document directly into this transaction, okay, I can do that through the use of this plus symbol up here in the upper right-hand corner. You have the same 4 options you do on the first area. Okay, add new document, create a new folder, create new instant fax, and then fax back cover sheet. All right. So what I want to show you though is what this page looks like inside of an actual transaction, just to make it clear of exactly what we're doing and why we're here versus a transaction. So let's open up a transaction. Here's my Park Place transaction, right? We're brought to our transaction dashboard. So where we were previously was inside of this transaction, but very specialized view. That view was this documents view over here on the right. This view that we're looking at right now is its own specific transactional dashboard. Okay, so remember all the different levels of customization you had on the agent dashboard? You have the same here, okay, by clicking the lock and unlock button. But to really tie in your document section, you click on documents here. Well, here's all my documents for this particular transaction. The page looks very similar, right? Okay, and that's done so intentionally. But I can also see why there's a degree of confusion there with that's why you asked that question, Greg. So that was a phenomenal question, and I very much appreciate you asking it to bring clarity. So thank you. So do you guys see how documents work within, or you can grab external documents and kind of either organize them in a fashion that you desire, right? You get to build that framework, that theme, if you want, or you can directly upload it into a transaction. Or, like I said, you use the DocBox storage solution area to do that for you. Okay. Now, the other area of interest that I really wanted to talk about is actually going to be pulling in contacts, okay? And we have several different contacts that we can use and utilize, right? We have every system nowadays has some version of a contact or Rolodex-based system, right? You know, whether it be a third-party application, you know, any social media application that you download nowadays, you have to build out or you have some degree of customization within your contact calendar. What I really wanted to show you guys today is what it looks like and how you can use it within the TransactionDesk platform. And to be able to grab contacts from a third-party source to use them appropriately, okay? So first, where we go for that, okay? And it may seem simple where we would go, but may not be. So we open up and expand out our navigation bar at the top left like we normally do. We come down to the contact section. So the other thing I also want to point out right now, so there's a clear line of understanding. Just like how I explained DocBox, the functionality that we have here is going to be the same as if you were living inside of a transaction, okay? So what I'm showing you is overarching themes like the broader concepts of the sections and the tabs. Keep in mind, every single one of these functions, especially when it comes to external documents, working with forms, importing contacts, you have the ability to do directly from within the transaction itself, okay? That's why I showed you the doc box area and the transaction both with the assistance of the question. So what do we want to do here, right? We have our section or contacts. I have some contacts in here already, but maybe I want to pull in contacts from my Gmail account because I know I have a lot of contacts over there. Well, what I have the ability to do is click on the create or the add button. Notice it's the same looking button as the other ones that we've looked at. So you're always looking for the plus symbol if you want to add something. We have an ability to create a contact. If we click that, opens up this window, right? Ownership, what kind of contact is this? Is it personal or is it an office contact? Then your general, preferred, and address, right? You have relevancy in each one of these different tabs of creating your own. The other thing I want to highlight right here is notice you see this TV icon and I hover over it and brings up the tooltip where it says, how do I? When I'm not around, right, and you're not attending some of these webinars and some trainings and stuff like that, please, if you guys haven't already, please make use of these icons in the upper right hand corners of some of these tabs or strong key areas. They show you exactly how to do the function that I'm showing you here, okay, or a different function that I'm not showing you guys today, right? Utilize the internal tooltips, internal training abilities that you guys have access to right within the platform, okay? And pretty important. You click on the add symbol and then you come up here and it says add contact from Google. So the first thing that's going to be asking me is, because remember about building bridges, what are we doing? We're building bridges. So it opens up this window. It's going to ask you, hey, would you like to pull in contacts? You simply enter your credentials if you need to. My account's already synced, so that's why it didn't come up with that window already, and I apologize it didn't unsync it, but what it would do is open up the Gmail login window. Okay, so you simply enter your login credentials for your Gmail, whatever it may be, right? I have like 5 different Gmail accounts, right? So pick the one that's relevant to you, where the contacts live, grab that, and enter those data, and then opens up all the contacts you have within your Gmail, okay? So today what I'm gonna do is I really wanna hone in on some of these 5 key individuals that I wanna bring in, okay? I just happen to be friends with the Avengers. So I'm gonna use my Avengers contacts. So I have these 5 contacts I'm pulling in from my Gmail account. I can click on select, or I can click on the basket. If I click on the basket, it allows me to make another additional edit, which is simply just removing the contact from the list. Whenever you see the shopping cart, think Amazon, right? So if you want to edit the cart, that's where you go, is the basket, right? If you want to complete the process, click on select. Then you see import completed. Well, here's Bruce Banner, here's Peter Parker, here's Steve Rogers, Thor, and then Tony Stark, Iron Man, right? So here's all of our contacts we just pulled in from our Gmail account. Now what's happening here is that now they're permanently, a copy is made inside of our TransactionDesk account. We didn't lose anything from Gmail, we just copied that data and put it directly into our TransactionDesk account. Now if I say I want to edit anything, I click on Steve Rogers, for example, same window comes up, right? Is a personal contact preferred? How would I like to have his name? Maybe instead of Steve, maybe it's Steven, right? That's what his appropriate full name is. And then here's address information. Once you're done, all you have to do is click save. Seems simple, but trust me when I tell you, the ability to draw on contacts is incredibly useful, especially if you have a lot of contacts in a third party. We are constantly evolving the platform, so I fully expect to see more bridges that are possible with other providers like Yahoo or Outlook or Apple, something like that, where I fully expect to see some of those integrations and enhancements coming down the pipeline. So really quickly, does anyone have any questions? We're close to the end, and I paused a couple times to see if there's questions. I want to see how you guys are doing so far. We only have a couple subjects to talk about. The big things we talked about was importing of particular items, whether they're documents, contacts, or faxes into the platform. The last thing we have to really kind of look at is setting up our link to more notifications and where to go to manage those. Okay, so notifications typically end up falling over here on the left, okay, in terms of management of that. because it's in your profile settings, you're able to manage some of the stuff. The ones that I really want to talk about specifically is going to be underneath your linked applications. If you're using Broker Wolf or something like that, you're going to see notifications come through, and you saw the different colors in the upper right hand corner, right? You saw blue, then you saw green. So there's different colors. There is a yellow notification. Those are for tasks. So just know the different levels and colors of the tasks. Now, back to the setup, what I was talking about, and specifically when in the realm of editability, I'm sorry, editability is not a word, being able to edit and customize other fields, other areas, okay? Type management is one of those, okay? And you can see each one of these comes equipped with its corresponding number of different options you have in terms of abilities. The main one that I always like to talk about is property and transactional statuses. Okay, let's start with transactional statuses at the bottom. So these are the standardized ones with the globe, and you can see system, the tooltip system. These are the standard system generated roles for your transactional statuses. All right. Now, with that said, you have the ability to create your own. Remember when I said that if there's some common language that you guys use that you don't see, like maybe there wasn't a fell through when I got mine, right? So for example, I wanted to create my own because fell through was a status that we use internally on our side, for example, right? Or if pending isn't something, or withdrawn doesn't mean what you think it means and it means something else for you guys, change it or don't use that specific transactional status, right? Create your own. This is really, you get to have fun with your imagination in terms of what you guys are doing with your workflows and how you guys are using them. You guys are the masters. You guys are the ones that know what you guys are doing, right? Ideally. So with that said, you have the ability to come in here and create and customize your own transactional statuses. I think that's pretty cool. In addition to that, okay, here's property. So again, if you guys are working in a facet of the real estate industry that maybe isn't as common as some others, and you don't see your standardized property statuses and roles and identifiers, we have commercial sale, commercial lease, farm, multifamily, residential, and lot. If you want to create your own, come over here and hit create type. When you hit create type, again, personal or office, and then name whichever one you wish it to be, right? So let's just say it's going to be, maybe you want to drill it down even further, like residential purchase or something, right? And then click save. These are just examples. So if it's not the primary use case of what you're doing, just use your imagination for a moment. But you guys get the idea of the level of customization that you have with this. It's pretty cool. The last one I want to talk about, and then I'll let you guys go in terms of more customization on the back end, is document. Okay. Similarly to the other two, you can see all the different system generated document identifiers. You have appraisal, checklist, counteroffer, etc. Again, if there's something that you don't see that you want in here, click the plus symbol. Okay, you'll see those items in the drop downs. You'll see the items in the ability to select those roles at the appropriate time or statuses when you're going to do that. You'll always see that option in there because it lists everything that you create here. Okay. Okay, so with that said, that's actually going to conclude a lot of what we did. We did quite a bit today, right? We looked quite intensively about program settings and adjusting our accounts. That was at the beginning, at the end, to kind of round everything out. We understood notifications, right? We saw the two different varying levels of notifications. I even hinted at a third, just so you'll know where you see them. We did set up link devices, or at least I showed you where to go to set up link devices. I showed you guys where to pull in your contacts from a Gmail, or what I didn't show you guys was actually from within the transaction. Excuse me, I did not show you guys that. I'll do that right now. So we were inside of a transaction, same Park Place transaction, okay? Contacts. Click the plus symbol. Here's our four different varies of delivery methods. You have the ability to create a new transaction contact, add an existing one. You can add yourself, which just grabs from your profile. Okay, that's all it's doing. But it's still a pretty cool button to press. So it's like, okay, I want to add myself if you haven't done it in the interim. Okay, say if you don't use the wizard, for example, this is the adding yourself will probably come in handy. Though I would really like you guys to use the wizard because the wizard is immensely useful. Okay, it drills down on these 4 or 5 major steps that you're seeing on the right side, right? Your details, your contacts, your forms, your documents, and the last one, which is details. okay? Okay, so that is actually going to conclude what we have to cover today. Let's close this. So if you guys happen to have any questions or concerns, you guys are welcome to ask me now. Was there any overarching themes that you guys wanted more education on or more training on? If you guys want, I can stick around a little bit and drill down on some of the more specifics of what function that you would like to see, or anything else. If you enjoyed the class, that's great. I hope you guys did. The last slide I want to talk about here is actually our customer care slide, or technical line. So if you guys happen to run into any issues at all, okay? We are 24/7, so that's the first component I want to mention. We are 24/7, so please give us a ring if you guys are working late at night, past the standard business hours like 9 to 5, right? We are still here. We have people that are able to be on the phone and answer some of these technical questions and get you still rolling, right? That phone number is 800-668-8768 or support@internetsolutions.com. I do want to thank you guys for spending the last 50 to 60 minutes with me. We're right at the 50-minute mark here, or a little over. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your days to be able to attend today's class. And hopefully you guys were able to grab some of the pieces of information, and hopefully you guys are able to move around the platform a little bit easier now, knowing some of the pieces that you guys know. If you guys continue to if you, or I'm sorry, excuse me, if you guys want to continue more trainings, we have more offerings of trainings, and you can see all that internally within the platform. You can sign up for them, you can contact us and show you guys how to do that. But we have online webinars, more of what we're doing here today. There's a plethora of different training materials and offerings that we give you guys to ensure that you guys are on the right pathway, to be able to ensure that you guys are doing the most for the least amount of work, right? Because we all want that. So anyway, so thank you again. One last opportunity. Thank you very much for allowing me to showcase some of these materials to you guys today. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to our customer care team, or you can email me. You guys saw my email address up there. I'll say it one more time. It's C, last name is Lolly, L-O-L-L-I at lwolf.com, which is lonewolf.com. So thank you again very much. Have a good rest of your day. Good holiday weekend if you guys are having a 3-day weekend. For those of you aren't, and you guys require assistance, contact our customer care line. Thank you again very much, everyone, and have a good rest of your week.